What do you think would be the knock-on effects of these US tariffs?
Am I concerned? Yes. Back when it was in 2017, 2018 when you just started.
There's only so many permutations you can get with these parts that you're buying off eBay. And I said, I'm going to try to design my own. Bringing balance to the whole design is the hardest.
Any concerns that you had when you first bought your home?
The person that was handling it for me, I needed somebody who knew the ins and outs of these tenancy agreements.
If there's a recession and interest rates come down, I don't foresee homeowners saying, I need to sell now. Okay, but what is the caveat? Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode where we talk about business stories and property journeys. My name is Delvin and I'm the host for today. And we have my dear friend, right? His name is Alex. He runs Arcturus Watches, which is a modern contemporary watch brand hailing from Singapore. So Alex, welcome to the show.
I thank you very much for having me today, Delvin.
Of course, I've followed Alex's journey on his business since 2018. Yep. So I'll give the floor to you. Maybe just give our audience a sensing of how the business started and what were its origins.
Okay. So Arcturus actually started more as a passion project. So it began in around 2017, 2016 when actually I was studying law in the UK and I was living with my housemate Satish, right? So back then we used to actually talk a lot about watches, and I felt that, you know what, why not just try my hand at building some watches? So I used to buy parts off eBay, and after I'll be assembling the watches by myself at my desk, right? And after a while I realized that, you know what, there's only so many permutations you can get with these parts that you're buying off eBay, right? And I said, I'm going to try to design my own. And that's really how Arcturus started. So Satish and I, we got together, we designed the watches, went on to manufacturing, and yeah, that's where we are today, 7-8 years later.
Yeah. No, I mean, seeing the success of your brand today, right? I must say that I even completely forgot of all the hard work and actually all the back when it was in 2017, 2018 when you just started. Yeah. Actually, so all of this design and even the manufacturing, the idea just came from a college dorm room, would you say?
Yeah, pretty much actually. Well, a lot of it also stemmed from being unable to afford a lot of the fancy watches, right? Like we were so into all these independent brands, brands that were doing a lot of handcrafting, fine craftsmanship, and also those jewelry brands like Cartier, Bulgari, that kind of thing. And we said, you know what? Why not do it by ourselves? We can do it by ourselves, and that's how we did it. Yeah, got started.
Yeah. No, I remember that would you say that the first big break came with your Kickstarter?
Yes.
Yeah. Like when was that, and how did people react? Like, do you actually see like a huge growth in your Instagram or
So yes, where we started with the marketing was actually with the Facebook groups. So there were a lot of these enthusiast groups around on Facebook, and we started posting our designs there and actually getting feedback from the community. So based on some of this feedback, we tweaked the designs, refined it further, and then eventually, because back then, yes, Kickstarter was a hot platform for you to do fundraising. So we decided to launch it on Kickstarter. We had to promote it. We had to actually send the watches out to reviewers from all around the world. They were quite impressed by it because for them, our designs were something they had not seen in what you'd call the micro brand world. So micro brands are usually these smaller brands that are run by one or two individuals, and they use whatever stock movements they can get their hands on, right? So that was really the break for us, where when the community actually realized that, hey, you know what, we've not seen these designs before in our community. Mostly were things like tool watches, like dive watches, Flieger watches, the pilot ones, or like field watches. So what we produced was quite different.
Okay. Yeah. So just to expand a bit more on the design, right? Could you just share with us what's the design inspiration? Right, from the watches, was there something that were there some elements whereby you modeled it from I'm not too sure, but maybe you would just help us to understand a bit more.
So maybe a little bit of background to where the design inspiration comes from is because we are a Singaporean brand, we are very proud to be a Singaporean brand. So actually a lot of our influences come from Singapore. So for example, in our very first design, we called it the Lion City one. So Lion City, Singapore, right? And the piece of Singapore that we wanted to feature in it was actually the Helix Bridge, the one that's outside MBS, because we liked how there was, it was an architectural marvel to me, right? If you look at the front of the watch, the dial face of the watch, it's actually very symmetrical, right? But that helix pattern was something a bit more chaotic. You know, the lines would go across, go from left to right, up to up, down, all vertical lines everywhere, right? And it showed contrast. So it was like a very ordered symmetry on the front and a kind of ordered chaos at the back, if you want to put it that way.
Okay. So from that first watch design, where is the brand now? How many ranges of watches that you've had, and what are you working on? Maybe if you could just give a sneak preview or a teaser,
Of course. So after the Lion City one, right, we had 8 different SKUs of the Lion City one. We had it in mother of pearl, we had it in a sandblasted dial. Even in the mother of pearl variants, we had a light shade of mother of pearl and a black color mother of pearl. So from there, we went on to produce the LC2, the Lion City 2, and we called it the Vanda Tourbillon. So this was named after our national flower, the Vanda Miss Joachim, right? For that one, we decided to push things a little further. We decided to use semi-precious stones, things like aventurine and malachite, and then we even had guilloche work on the dial. So that was where we went after that, and with those 3 models, we subsequently released another 2 more rose gold models of the LC2, and that was red aventurine, something that was very rare in the watchmaking world. Only one other, at least to my knowledge, one other brand has done a red aventurine. Another one was the green meteorite. So that contrast between the green and the gold was very strong, nice Art Deco style of contrast. That is where we're at. Where we are going, of course, Arcturus has big plans. We do intend to eventually have our own in-house movements. Of course, that would take a lot of R&D on our end as well. For the immediate step, we are looking at relaunching the LC1 because we've had so many people come to us at fairs through Facebook Messenger, Instagram, and everything, and they're all like, "Hey, where can we get the LC1? Can you bring it back?" And we had promised the LC1 backers back then that we wouldn't actually bring back the mother of pearl, because the mother of pearl was going to be unique for them and them alone. So that's why for this time round, we are bringing back the LC1 and we're calling it the LC1R, the reissue and refined. So we have refined the case, we've refined the dial construction, new materials in it, different semi-precious stones as well.
I mean, as a layperson, it sounds like there's actually a lot of things that go into watchmaking. Just out of curiosity, right? Which part of the watch do you think is like the hardest to make?
So I've always thought about this, right? And I would actually say bringing balance to the whole design is the hardest, because how far do you go with it, right? Do you want to go over the top, put in everything you can put into the watt dial, or how much restraint do you exercise when designing this watch? So that is the hardest part of the process, if you ask me. Okay, but when we come to the manufacturing stage, right, the dial construction is usually one of the most complex because our dials are multi-layered. There is easily at any one time 10, 15 different parts going into the dial. So we always have to ensure that there's structural integrity to it, that these semi-precious stones don't just crack under, if it gets a knock or anything. So that is the hard part. But what's even harder is actually ensuring that the finishing is on point. Because with watches, they're jewelry. They're really like jewelry, where any flaw is going to be very easily picked up. So we have to ensure that the brushing is done properly, the polishing is done properly, the chamfering on the edges are all done very nicely, smoothly, no grain, no burrs. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I mean, as someone that's self-employed, right? Every day is different, right? You have highs and you have lows as well. Any wildest or crazy story that you want to share? Like can be anything. Like maybe starting the brand, manufacturing, something interesting. Like at least I have some preview clips at the start of the clip that I can get more viewers hopefully.
Yeah. Wow. Craziest story. Okay, I wouldn't say we've had very wild, crazy stories, lah.
Yeah.
But at least for Satish and I, what we thought was one of the craziest stories, right? Was we had attended this watch exhibition where it was all independent watchmakers. Some of these people were our heroes that we had looked up to, or we still look up to actually. And when we were there, we were just, we were so excited to see all these people.
It's like a bit like meeting your heroes in real life.
Yes.
And then like, okay.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. It was like meeting our heroes, right?
Okay.
And we actually showed them the watch. We showed them the watch that we had produced, the Arcturus LC2, right? And some of them, when they actually held it, they were so impressed by it. They were like, where did you make this? And when we told them, look, we made these in China, and they were just kind of blown away by it because they didn't expect something of this quality to be able to come out of China, right? Because we are talking about, the boys that we're talking about here are all the Swiss boys, right? They got all these beautiful artisanal houses in Switzerland, right? Producing top quality stuff, right? So it was very nice to hear that or get that stamp of approval from them, right? Another thing was, there was once somebody reached out to me saying that he was very interested in purchasing one of our watches. So he asked, can I come down and see the watch? And I said, sure. I don't have a physical shop because the brick and mortars are a bit expensive to maintain for a small brand. So I said, why don't you come over to my house? All right, I can show it to you at my place. I'll just sit outside with you, take a look at it. Right. He came down. He really loved the watch. He came with his girlfriend, right? And he really loved the watch. And was talking to him, because I like to get to know my customers, right? I like to get to know them because to me, this has always been passion. It's not just purely about dollars and cents and business, right? So I want to know what kind of collector would actually want to buy my watch, because to me it's very satisfying. It's like a stamp of approval for my designs. And then turns out he was actually a university student and he was graduating, right? And he wanted the Arcturus to be his graduation watch, to be his present to himself for his graduation. And that melted my heart now. That really melted my heart.
Story,
Yeah, it was more a warm story. So it's not really wild, but it was something that was very heartening.
So this guy was, he was just a university graduate that liked collecting watches.
Yeah.
And then you just hosted him, and then he really liked what you made.
Actually, what made things even, sweeter was that this was the first watch he's buying for himself. Yeah. Okay. So it was the first watch he was going to buy for himself as a graduation gift to himself.
That's nice.
Yeah. So that was that's very warming, heartwarming story lah.
Yeah. Are there any are there any trends that you are seeing among maybe not just your customers but also in the watch space in general? I mean, it's quite a broad question, right? But it can be whether it's design. I mean, there are a lot of tech watches right now, like a lot of health, like Fitbit with Garmin, all these watches coming. I was very interested in this thing whereby it was something you could attach to like the strap of the watch, and then
Yeah.
that served as like to measure your heartbeat, steps and stuff like that, and then you can still wear like your Rolexes or what as a status
Is
symbol.
it the Sony Wena or
I'm not sure.
one of those?
Well,
Yeah.
that's one of them. But I mean, that was quite interesting idea, right? So I mean, I see all of that. But what is your perspective as a watchmaker? What are some trends that you see people nowadays gravitating towards when they are looking at buying a watch?
Okay.
Yeah.
Firstly, I think those two things can coexist. Having a digital watch and, well, let's call it a dumb watch. Okay? What you mentioned just now about that attachment that goes onto the strap so that people can still wear their dumb watch is a sign that the dumb watches are still here to stay. Because people still want to wear their dumb watch, to the point where people are actually creating these attachments to add on to the straps, right? And that's why I believe they can coexist. Okay, each has its functions. One is for appreciation of artistry, handcraft materials. The other one is really function over form, right?
Yeah.
That's your smartwatches. I mean, people tend to say that if you really wanted accurate time, you use your phone. You don't really rely on a mechanical watch for your time. But you know, as a guy, I feel that men don't really have much jewelry besides rings. The other thing is a watch. So that's a way for men as well to accessorize. So I think it's still here to stay, right? Where do I see what trends now? We're seeing. I find the trends quite cyclical, right? At one point in time, you had big chunky watches that were the trend, right? The Panerais, the watches that were in like 44 mm, 46 mm even, going all the way up to 50 mm. Those are huge. Those are like, to me, I always felt they're like mini clocks on your wrist, right? But now the trend that we are seeing is watchmakers are going smaller. They're actually going back to 38 mm, 36 mm size cases. And these are case sizes that you would see from the early 90s to 80s, 70s. So it's quite cyclical in that sense. It's coming back around. And if we look at that 44 mm size, what was that? That was the size of a pocket watch.
Right.
So you see, the trends are cyclical.
I was going to ask you about the pocket watch.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So it's really quite cyclical.
Okay, so I mean, it's a bit like fast fashion, I guess. Yeah, I mean, there's a period of time in which there was like bell bottoms, and after that skinny jeans, and now it's back to
bell bottoms again. Yeah, dude. I'm seeing the late teens and early 20s, you're on their bell bottoms now.
Yeah. I think today if I go out with a pair of skinny jeans, I might get crucified or something. You know, it's crazy.
We're regarded as old now.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, it's been quite a bit of a segment.
Yeah.
For all the viewers out there, you know, if they wanted to find you or find your business, like, you know, what can they search on social media, or you know?
Oh yeah, so that it will be at Arcturus Watches on Instagram, or you can just search for us Arcturus Watches on Facebook. You'll find the page.
Yeah. And you also have a web page, right?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, forgot about that. ArcturusWatches.sg. That's it.
I understand that you are a homeowner currently, right? As well.
Yeah.
Any concerns that you had when you first bought your home?
What concerns did I have when I first bought my home?
Yeah.
For me, it was finding, I mean, you know, age-old adage is location, right? So because I grew up in the central region my whole life, to me, I wanted to be back in the central region. So that's how, that was one of the criteria that I had when I was looking for my place. Another thing that was important was space, because I felt that if I was to start a family, I needed a decent amount of space. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then when you first bought your place, the first couple of years you rented it out?
Yeah, that's right, for 3 years.
So I mean, you don't just have that perspective from the homeowner, you also have a perspective from being a landlord.
Yeah.
Right? Was there anything unexpected? Like, you know, being a landlord, having to deal with tenants, or like...
Okay, I was very fortunate. I had a great tenant, a really great tenant. Well, I was more concerned about was actually the person that was handling it for me, right? Because I needed somebody who knew the ins and outs of these tenancy agreements, what the landlord's rights were, what the tenant's rights were. And I think that basic understanding would have gone a long way, lah. Because there were some things that came out to surprise me were things like incidental costs, things like when there were repairs that had to be made, changing of light bulbs and, changing a water heater, changing the lock on the door. I wasn't familiar with what cost did I have to bear, what cost was the tenant supposed to bear under this tenancy agreement, right? So I felt that having an agent who has a good understanding of this was very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else that you want to share about this?
Yeah. Well, you helped me quite a bit. Yeah. Because when you took over that one, you were actually very clear with me on, okay, these are things that the landlord is responsible for, and these are things that the tenant is responsible for. And that to me was a huge help, And I think managing that relationship with the tenant was very important. It helped, especially when she moved out eventually, the whole handover process, very smoothly done. So that's why I think that the point that I'm really trying to make here is the agent that you use is so important. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for your next property move, are there certain things at the top of your head that you feel that, I'm going to improve on this, or I'm going to look for this that is not currently in my house? Like certain things, that you can share?
Okay, initially I thought the whole thing about aircon ledge and bay windows wouldn't bother me too much, right? But in practice, when you're actually trying to plan something around those things with the aircon ledge there and the bay windows there, it becomes a little trickier. But we were a bit lucky this time round because we managed to find a way to repurpose that bay
The space
window.
lah.
That space, with that bay window by the window, we ended up building some cabinets, and it became our equipment garage on top of the bay window. But I think that's definitely one thing I'm going to look out for next time round.
So the bay windows and the aircon ledges lah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think another thing that I need to look out for is definitely this thing about how the fumes, if there's a restaurant downstairs.
Oh, okay. So you mean if it's like for example an apartment above like commercial units, and then the commercial unit below is like a barbecue or like they fry things very easily, then the fumes where it is. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because right now there is a bakery and then another snack store, a fried snack store downstairs from my area. Thankfully, I don't smell. I don't get that. I don't get the smell.
Yeah.
It's in fact actually sometimes when I go downstairs in the morning, before I go to work, you smell the fresh baked goods in the morning. That's a nice smell.
Yeah.
So, but we're very glad that doesn't get into the house, lah. So for now, it's totally fine. Yeah. But it is something that it has alerted me to, lah. Something I need to look out for in the next one. Yeah.
Okay. So now, do you have any questions that you just like to find out an answer from me, and putting you in the privacy?
Yes, sir. I definitely do. So what I wanted to understand from you is actually what are some of these key trends that you see in the Singapore property market right now, and how should homeowners and investors be responding to it? Because they're two different groups, right?
Yeah. So so in the residential property market space, first of all, it's like I think out of every like 4 transactions, right, a majority, so 3 out of 4 will be for home purchase, like own stay, like we call it. There's always this distinction between own stay as well as investors, right? So most people today, they buy for own stay, and that is a result of the government's regulations, right? They just say, we actually don't need the private sector to come in to help to fund people's homes as an investor. Like you don't need that many landlords. And if you look at property taxes, for example, if you look at maintenance, right, these actually eat up into landlords' margins quite a bit. right? Compared to let's say America, yeah, right. So the one part is that when we look at the new developments, for example, developers tend to cater more, I think, towards own stay purchases than investors. But also it varies by the regions. Like just now you were saying about how you like the central region, right? And then compared, there's of course there's like the central region, the rest of central region, and then the outside central region. It's a bit like I like to think of it as like an egg yolk, right? So the central region is like the yellow, like the yolk,
yes.
and then everything else is like
white,
the white. Right. So historically, the central region used to be more just for investors.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the value proposition is that you have expats who come in and then they will rent the place. Back before when there was ABSD, even you could sell it off to foreigners. Right? That was the idea in the central region, right? But since the government introduced ABSD, they increased it. You don't see that anymore. Yeah, which is why for a period of time you actually saw central properties prices, right, dipping.
Oh.
Yeah, and actually if you ask anyone, I think our parents' generation, right, who have bought like a central property, right, or rather who are looking into the market, that's one concern that I hear, like, like prices haven't actually performed as well as when you see the outside. Yeah. So part of it is that regulation, the ABSD, and the intent of it, I guess, is to prevent any kind of speculation.
Okay.
Yeah, because for the longest period of time, people were buying into the central, hoping to sell off to like a foreigner who would pay a lot of money for it. And if that continues to go up, then everything else will go up without any guardrails, I would say. Yeah. So trends wise, one thing I'm seeing is that more and more developers, they're catering more to own stay than investors. But there are still some products, I think, that cater primarily to investors. And I would say that one way that we can look at or identify some of these products is looking at the unit mix. Okay, so unit mix means, like, for example, is there just 1, 2, 3 bedrooms? Is there 4 or 5 bedrooms? And generally, when you see just 1 to 3 bedrooms, okay, wherever it is, but you see it more still in the central or the rest of central region, right? Then I would say it's still catered primarily more to investors, right? So one angle is from the unit mix. Another angle is just from whether or not something is an apartment or a condo.
Okay.
Right? Usually when there's that huge amount of facilities, right, the developer caters it more to, I feel, the own stay buyers. Yeah, because they want the families to be the ones purchasing. There's bigger unit types. Yeah, so there are many ways of looking at it, lah. Yeah, that's what I think. So for home buyers, the trend now is that people want more efficient layouts. Okay, so I mean, you just mentioned,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, like the aircon ledges, bay windows. So people are very aware of that. Partly also because regulation has changed. So for example, right now you hear a lot of agents talking about the harmonization. Right?
Yes.
Harmonization. Do you know what the harmonization?
Yeah. It's about something about the what's usable GFA, right? Was it?
Yeah. So
maybe.
Yeah. So essentially for lay people right now is that all the newer projects that are past this harmonization regulation, you cannot count the aircon ledges, and you cannot count the what we call double volume ceiling, which is the high ceiling into the space that you sell to the consumer. Yeah. So this does a couple of things, right? One is that it tilts the incentive back for developers to say that, hey, since we cannot sell the aircon ledges, then we must be as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
Right. That's one thing. And then you also see that maybe perhaps there's lesser units with high ceilings, at least for the new properties. Yeah, but the intent is really to make the space as efficient as possible so that the consumer ultimately purchases what he can live in.
That sounds like a great policy, actually.
Yeah.
Because then, sorry, if I just follow up from this question, does this also apply this GFA harmonization? Sorry, what's it called again?
Yeah, GFA harmonization.
GFA harmonization. Does it apply to the older properties or the existing properties?
Okay, so yeah, it's a very good question, right? So because the regulation had a start date, so it only applies to all the new properties that is past this start date. But then as a customer, which is a very good question, is that when you go into, let's say, 5 years down the road, you go into Property Guru, right? You're like, wow, when you see something of this size, because in property guru right now you only see like how many square feet.
Yeah.
Right, then you're going to see a two-bedder that's 900 versus a newer two-bedder, let's say a two-bed, two-bath, which is about 650 square feet, right? Then, wow, you're like, why is there this 300 square feet difference? Yeah, so I think the industry hasn't sorted that out yet.
Okay.
Part of it will have to be due to agents to actually educate, I think,
Right.
and to empower the customers to say that, this one was built beyond this date, and then therefore it is a harmonized project. Yeah, but to loosely put it, I think the listing portals don't have an answer to that yet. Yeah, so there's a gap in the education, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
So that actually would justify why we are seeing higher prices in your OCR region as well. Because would that be? Because you are having this GFA harmonization now, meaning it's all livable.
Okay, so I when you say higher prices, is it from a per square foot perspective?
Yes, PSF.
Okay,
Yep.
so yes, that would be one reason. But I'll also say that prices, right, you can see it from a total price kind of perspective, right? So when you look at total price, okay, in at least the past year since the harmonization project came out, if you look at a couple of clusters, one pair would be your Emerald of Katong versus like your Grand Dunman.
Yeah.
Okay, that is one. That's one pair. The other one would be in the Ulu Pandan area, Nava Grove and Pine Tree Hill. Okay, the reason why I brought out these two clusters is that not Grand Dunman, Tembusu Grand, Grand and Emerald of Katong, and then Nava Grove and Pine Tree Hill. Is because one of them was before the harmonization and one of them was after. Okay. So from a per square foot perspective, if you compare two of it at the same price, then the one with the harmonized would have a higher per square foot, right? But from a price perspective, they will be the same price.
Okay.
So
I see. Okay.
Yeah, because the idea is that you actually just have a smaller square footage that developers can sell.
Yeah.
But if the price is the same, then that will drive the per square foot price up for the harmonized project. But technically, it's not more expensive, I guess.
Yeah, you might actually even end up with more livable space in your harmonized one.
For the amount of square footage, you will. Yeah, but you're also paying just for the livable space. Yeah. So yes, true. But my point was that even though you see higher per square foot prices, what's important to consider is also the total price of the product.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because there could be a possibility that the total price of something is post harmonized versus something that was just sold before the harmonization kicked in is lower. Okay, so for example, what I mean is that the new one you might purchase it at 1.4, then the old one was 1.5.
Yeah.
Right, but the per square foot might still be higher.
Right.
Just because your amount of space that you can use to account for this is lower. Yeah. So I think right now when you see the headlines, people get spooked a lot by the per square foot prices, right?
Exactly.
I mean, like for example, the Ori in January. I think the super high floors were like 293, 3,000, and that's like it's not like Yishun, but it is still not like central. It's a good location, yes. Toa Payoh is great, but it's not like Orchard.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like, how can it be? And part of it is because of certain changes in regulation. So I would caution, or rather I would tell let my clients to don't just look at per square foot, also look at the total price of the product. Yeah, but great questions. I think this is nice.
That's why I've always liked is your very holistic approach though. That's why I love working with you. I also think that's a great segue since we're talking about price, right? Then to look at the interest rates right now, because I mean, with the what do you think would be the knock-on effects of these US tariffs be on the property market in Singapore? It may seem a little unrelated, but I don't know. I feel like there might be some impact somehow. If you can draw that link for me, because
So I've been following up quite a bit on the US tariff. I would say I haven't really digested the whole thing. But am I concerned? Yes lah. And I would say that I saw Lawrence Wong come out to talk about it. I mean, for him to come out, imagine he produced like a video at his office, and after that in Parliament they spoke about it. They now have a workforce,
task force,
right, chaired by DPM Gun, right, to talk about it. So it must be serious lah. And then just in the past 2 days or past 3 days alone, you see the stock market right? And
As
also
in
the fact,
banking.
yeah, what scares me is actually just the fact that Donald Trump, or at least from the time of today's recording, lah, right? We don't know,
Yeah.
by the time this comes out, maybe things have changed, right?
Yeah.
So today, what's it today? April the 9th.
April 9th.
So he actually announced retaliatory tariffs after China raised the tariffs. I think now it's like 104% or something like that, right? So
Yeah.
So hopefully there's a better resolution by the time this video comes out. But as of the time of this recording, this is what's the reality on the ground.
Correct.
Okay. So and China actually came out to say they will take this to the end. Like what does the end actually mean? Yeah.
Sounds very ominous to me.
I was like, like, what does the end mean? And I mean,
Yeah.
looking at the US president, he doesn't sound like someone that will really just back down. Yeah. So I think we're in for a rough ride. My concern is, okay, if there's a recession, right, then interest rates will go down. Okay. And the reason why that is the case is because the US Fed, moves interest rates depending on the unemployment and how the US economy is doing. Okay? If it's good, it's high, right? The interest rate is high because they don't want overstimulation of the economy.
Right.
Okay, but if it's bad, then they will reduce it. And reducing the interest rate, the idea is to incentivize businesses or individuals to take more loans because it's cheaper, right? And why would people and why would people want to take loans, right? Is because they can use money that's not theirs to make more money.
It's
right? That's
more injection of money back into the system.
it's the system also. Yes, yeah.
Right.
There's that whole portion about quantitative easing as well. Yeah. But the general idea is first interest rates will drop if you go into a recession.
Okay.
So let's try to break it down like systematically, right? When interest rates fall, is it cheaper or is it more expensive? Let's say like you're a homeowner, right? For your mortgage.
Correct. If interest rates fall,
yeah.
it becomes cheaper for my mortgage.
It becomes cheaper,
Yeah.
right? So if it's cheaper, is it more of a burden or is it less of a burden for you?
Oh yeah, it will become less of a burden.
Less of a burden, right?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, right, will you as a homeowner feel like, hey, I need to offload my house right now because I cannot take my mortgage?
Oh, that's true. Huh?
You won't, right?
There will be less pressure.
There will be less pressure. So when interest rates, if there's a recession and interest rates come down, I don't foresee homeowners saying, I need to sell now. Okay, but what is the caveat? Right, the caveat is if the person loses his job
and cannot support.
Okay, I would say that in Singapore at least we have very strong loan regulations. Right, the fact that you have 25% down payment, you have the banks have an internal stress test rate, right, which is higher than the market rate when they give you a loan, right? So there are already some checks and balances. We like to use this word, right? In place, but also if you look at the government releases consumption expenditure, what's it called? I think it's consumption and savings data every quarter, something like that. People save quite a bit. Okay, every person, it's like 33% if I'm not mistaken of savings of your disposable income. So people save quite a bit, and therefore I think they do have a certain runway. Right, to pay off their mortgage. Yeah. But what is the doomsday scenario, right? We all want to just be safe. We want to make sure that we can still lead a decent life and we can still get back on our feet if someone were to lose their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Right. Is that if somehow someone loses their job and they cannot find a replacement within like X months. Yeah, that is doomsday scenario, right? Where and if that spreads like massive, then perhaps then you might see people trying to force sell the house.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of it comes down to I feel the government being able to convince your businesses to not let go of workers, right? Which actually they did in COVID.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I feel like something that not a lot of people talk about is that actually the success of the real estate market in COVID wasn't just because there was low interest rate. Of course, low interest rate helped, right?
Yeah.
They helped buying. It wasn't just because everybody was trapped here. Of course, they helped. Nothing else to spend, right?
Yeah.
But also that the government was able to keep the economy afloat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't recall at that period anyone that I know losing their jobs.
Yeah.
In fact, people say, wow, it was a very good economy, right? Despite the fact that people stopped a lot of economic activity.
Actually, you have a very good point because, I mean, even before you started helping me with my property journey, right? Yeah, I bought mine during COVID.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
Yes.
interest rates were low back then. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem was actually people over leverage into 2022, right? Because then interest rates suddenly just spiked. But then we got past that.
Yeah.
Right. And now that it's coming down, and now we have this US tariff thing. So the short answer is that I think we're still assessing, but at least when you look at the government's positioning, they are worried. Yeah. And a lot of it on how the real estate market does depends, I feel, not really just on interest rates, because interest rates are coming down. So it should help homeowners, it should help home buyers. A lot of it comes into whether people can keep their jobs. And if they can't keep their jobs, can they find something in the interim, so that they can pay their bills and still lead life. Yeah.
Okay.
If we can do that, I think great. Yeah. But what I would also add on is that the difference being that this US tariff is not like it's a problem because it affects trade, global trade, right? The tariffs just mean, well, can you imagine, like, okay, when I saw, back to my point about China, right?
Yes.
When I heard them say take it to the end, right? What is the end to me? Like, okay, let's not talk about war, right? But the end would be sanctioning each other. It means like I don't even trade with you. Yeah. So for example, I saw this reporter in the White House, right? He asked Donald Trump. He said, why is there no tariffs on Russia?
Oh.
Then I was like, actually true. Why is there no tariff on Russia? Because that there's this whole Ukraine Russia thing in the background, right? But actually, what was the simple answer? They are sanctioned. So like, you don't
even
no point
trade with them in the first place.
Precisely, right? Yeah, but so back to US and China, if they sanction each other and they don't trade, I think that will hurt us a lot, because trade is 3 times our GDP or something. Yeah. So and then what are the spillover effects? So I think that is the biggest problem in this coming recession. Yeah, right. We don't know yet. Officially, at least the government tells us that MTI is going to revise the GDP downwards from an initial projection of 1 to 3%. So you're expecting lower. But no one has said that we are going to go into a recession. But we are like, why not we just prepare?
Hunker down.
Yeah. So I just a short ad. I intend to do like a bit more research for this US tariff thing, because I think more and more people are talking about it. So in next month, I have a May video coming up. Yeah, I do this monthly video on my YouTube channel. Yeah. So I'll talk about that. Then hopefully by then we have a bit more resolution, because I'll probably produce it in like late April or something, right? And then it'll come out in May. Yeah. But for now, this is what I feel. I think the property market won't be hurt unless people start losing their jobs and they cannot find replacement.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Delvin didn't ask me to do this, but just a plug for him. He's got great content, super informative stuff. That's why I love working with Delvin. He gives you data-backed arguments, why, just great analysis overall. That's why I love working with Delvin.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have time for maybe one last question.
One more? Yeah?
Maybe one more. Anything lah.
Maybe something a little more lighthearted.
Okay. Our podcast always, our podcast is quite serious, but we're quite serious people.
Yeah, we are. But because, everybody always talks about Tiong Bahru, the nice fancy areas, Toa Payoh, Bishan for...
Joo Chiat, maybe.
Joo Chiat, Katong, these areas for property.
Okay.
But what, in your opinion, are some of these more underrated ones, like as one of the local influencers says, the hidden gems?
Wow. Okay, for like you mean like to buy a home, or actually no, I guess to live also, right? Because it's about the location, right?
Yeah.
Hidden gem.
Singapore becoming a mine already.
Yeah, let me think about it. I feel that the market is quite efficient. Hidden gem. Okay, it's just from a livability kind of perspective lah.
Yeah, I would say
like
livability.
Like great, you go down, you got. Okay, it's not really hidden lah, but I like new neighborhoods.
Okay.
Yeah, but the price in new neighborhoods, because it's new, right? So it's not cheap, but it's nice. In the news recently, Woodley made a lot of news. Like
that's unexpected.
Was selling at 1.25 or something. There's a lot of context to that. Like MOP supply low, how many new flats are there, even newly MOP flats and stuff like that. But the thing is that the hawker center there is huge. I see it's new, and then we have Woodley Mall, you have a park there. It's nice. Yeah, but okay, if you ask me about others that I like, I also like well-planned neighborhood. So potential, maybe like you give it like a few more years. Now maybe there are things, but there are things, but it's not like fully developed, but neither is it empty. Right? So actually like dairy farm.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people tell me that well, there's literally nothing there. Actually, it's not really true. If you've been to dairy farm residences, right, which is the newest kid on the block, it's going to be botany, and you just look at just how it is planned compared to, let's say, Hillview. People always compare. I think even like simple things like the roads. Okay, it's a bit, you have to walk to the MRT, but it feels livable.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the Marina South neighborhood as well.
yeah.
The idea at least behind it, like One Marina Gardens at this point in time is still selling, or rather it's going to launch in this weekend. But when you see what URA has planned for the neighborhood, like the fact that you have Gardens by the Bay, you have Marina Barrage, you have that Marina Coastal Park, and then they also have certain amenities like courtyards, plazas, they have a pedestrian street, they have like a market street, this kind of thing. It is quite nice lah. Like, you know, like the for the longest period of time, people are like, I'm not gonna live in Marina. Like, you ask any locals, right? I mean, how many people will live in Tanjong Pagar and Marina? I'll tell you that it's a minority.
Yeah.
And for many reasons. Yeah. One of it is like you just tell them and be like, I don't want to. It doesn't feel like a nice residential neighborhood to live in. Yeah. So I think Marina South there's potential, but of course now it's bare. But I like the idea. Yeah, I like the idea of it. Current neighborhoods. What else?
Or maybe what's one that you would recommend right now?
To buy to
buy.
Stay.
Yeah.
Where's one place? That you've not mentioned lah.
Yeah.
Wow, this is tricky.
Oh no, even if you mention, yeah.
Okay, I tell you why I'm struggling with it.
Yeah.
It's because when you look at the new launch supply, generally the outside central region it's very low.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of the new developments are in the center. Yeah, I personally like Orchard Boulevard a lot.
Oh.
But Orchard Boulevard is not very accessible to most people because of just the land cost there. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel that with this more, with the fact that the core central region has I would say stumbled, but it's the price rise has not been as great or as the OCR. I think the core central region maybe good time to look. Yeah, a lot of the supply is coming into the core central region.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like Orchard Boulevard. I mean, if you have the resources, I think it's a nice place. Yeah, and the other area that I think people can start to look at that I like would also actually be in Central. I like River Valley.
Oh yeah. That's
nice.
a very quaint area.
It's a nice place. I mean, you have Great World City as your neighborhood mall. Jesus. Yeah. So and
there's a Malaysia Boleh there. That one's not bad.
Is it?
Yeah,
That's
the
good.
food there is not bad.
Yeah, and I think just the way that the blocks are planned such that there's some distance. Yeah, it's nice. Like you don't. There are a lot of condos, but it doesn't feel too
cramped.
And I think that makes a difference.
She got very good point there.
Yeah, so I would look in the central personally lah. I like the central, but professionally as well. Given just how much supply is coming in to the central region, given that the central region has had some bumps in terms of the prices because of the how they are curbing speculation. I think it's a good time, and given the supply, I say the supply already. I think it's great, but of course there are some concerns. Some people might say some parts in the central region don't have schools, this kind of thing. But River Valley is not bad. So I like River Valley. I think that's something that people can look at. If you're looking at the resale property, I think right now outside central region resale properties generally can consider.
Okay.
Yeah, can consider. Yeah, so I hope I answered your question, because hidden gem I think not easy to identify. I'll tell you that the Joo Chiats, the same regions they are hot, right? Are hot for a reason.
Yes, fair enough. Yeah.
That's my answer lah. Thanks for staying all the way to the end. So you can find Alex on his Instagram page. Do you have anything?
No, I mean, that's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah.
See you in the next one.